Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gable.
And my name is Jacob Bortz, guys. Welcome to YouTube exclusive number 12. That's right, number 12. If this is your first time joining us for an exclusive, basically what we do here is a shortened version of our podcast, with which, if you did not know, our podcast setup is right behind us. Kind of cool.
Slight change.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we basically just do a shortened version of a podcast episode that we either have done already, that we are wanting to expand on slightly, or a possible future podcast episode, or it'll literally just be exclusive here on YouTube. These are usually about 10 to 20 minutes of just a couple quick points on a topic, and then we move on. So if you are interested in our full-length podcasts, you can view those right here on YouTube, or we're on all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple. I think we're still on Google. Google's kind of weird with the podcasts. But anyway, any audio, we're on there. And again, here on YouTube, along with our vlogs are also here on YouTube as well. And then plenty of clips that we post across every social media platform. We're talking Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube Shorts. So we are very reachable, and we have our content everywhere. Guys, in this exclusive here for number 12, we are talking about how it can be too late. What does that mean?
Or are you a lost cause?
Are you a lost cause?
What does that mean? I don't know. But the actual question of the matter is that, because obviously you title it, Are You a Lost Cause? It sounds crazy. You know, it sounds like, oh my gosh, am I a lost cause? And maybe you're clicking on this video because of that reason. Well, we're here to tell you that depends. Very much so depends, because we are touching on the subject of, obviously as Wirt said, it can be too late as well. This is obviously in reference to exercise. Most of our brand is that as it is. Exercise and health in general. So oftentimes you think of people that are older in age, so to speak, and you find it that it is harder to change their mind on things, whether it's voting in politics, whether it's their viewpoints on certain things, whether it's just habits in general to change, when you're 50, 60 plus and you try to change those habits compared to when you try to change those habits when you're 20 or when you're 15. It's completely different.
Or bring in new knowledge on a topic.
Or bring in new knowledge, because that's another tough one, because as we've seen with trainers, a lot of trainers that are 50, 60 plus years old that have been in the old school era only stick with the old school and don't even attempt to view the new school of stuff.
Right.
New school could be a lot of things, and some of those things are like holistic, and that stuff can be that's not shaky, new school we're talking about. We're talking like actual power training, athlete training, that type of stuff.
Involving technology and training,
all that stuff. And not just steel and iron and that's it. Right.
Which, hey, there is something to be said for just classic cold steel and an iron bar.
As if you want to listen, of course, all of our physical vitality episodes include stuff like that in them.
For sure.
So that's a way to go back on that. But when it comes to that, the reason we're talking about it can be too late is because we want to catch those of you that are on the younger side, hopefully 30, 35 and younger, right in that range, as that's most of our audience as it is, for that matter.
Right.
But we want to catch you guys now, because Wirtz and I, again, we both were playing sports growing up. We were both active growing up. Did we find the gym, so to speak, at different times? You a few years after I did? Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. But did you find the gym at, what were you, 21, 22 when you really got back into it, right?
It would have been a little bit before that, probably. Yeah, 20, 21, somewhere
20, 21.
Yeah, whatever.
And then obviously on my end of things, it was about 18. Yeah. So it's like, on those end of things, obviously we're two examples of people that have caught it early.
And we're also talking finding the gym after our sports.
Yes.
That's where, because both of us, like he just mentioned, we played sports growing up our whole lives, and as you move into high school, you start to get into the gym with your team and things like that. We're talking post-sports is when we found the gym and found the love of the gym as well.
Yeah, that's a good differentiation there for sure. And because obviously a lot of those of you that listen and probably are tuning in right now that might be new, you guys are also former athletes, more than likely. That's a very common demographic we talk to and we get involved with for good reason. But sports teach you good lessons to a certain degree.
Oh, yeah.
There's also plenty of people we talk to with sports that don't ever want to train again because they had such bad experiences with it.
Yeah.
We're here to tell you, we get it, but don't listen to that. Don't let that past coach or that past strength coach or whatever ruin it for you.
Right.
Because trust me, you don't want to be caught in the other boat of not training in your life.
Exactly.
So we're not saying slang some iron around all the time or anything like that. You and I train 3 days a week when it comes to strength training, and we do cardiovascular activity outside of that.
Exactly.
You know, it's pretty basic stuff. It's not like we're in there 6 days a week like we first were.
Sure.
Doing bodybuilding and whatnot.
Nothing against that either.
Nothing against that either. If that's really what helps you get releases, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
But the point is, for you young people listening, you need to catch it now. If you feel yourself slipping in some way, some manner, this is really directed to those of you that are kind of on the edge. Maybe you start working out a little bit, or maybe you haven't worked out at all. You need to make that jump now. Mm-hmm. And we say this because the longer you wait, as I mentioned, the longer and harder it will be to change your mind.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is too, I've worked with general population training now for 7+ years in some fashion. When you think about that too, there's a lot of people that they might be training at 60-something years old or 50-something plus years old, etc., but they're not getting results because they really don't, they want to say they're exercising, but they don't want to go past that.
Yeah.
We're here to tell you should be looking for results.
Yeah.
Along with this.
And progress and things like that. You know, you're kind of talking about as you get older, you know, it can be more difficult. It's just a fact of life. It can be more difficult to get results as you get older. Mm-hmm. It also doesn't have to be. We've talked about that plenty of times in plenty of physical vitality episodes. Our parents are great examples of that, you know, and things like that, and plenty of other people that we know that are, you know, in that upper 40s, 50s, 60 range, things like that. But what we also haven't talked about yet is the people that are just continually putting on weight, continually adding fat, and continually getting bigger and bigger and honestly sloppier. Even skinny fat for that matter too. Your body fat keeps going up, but you kind of like look somewhat athletic. Sure. Look a little bit slightly, not really. Right. You know? Right. That's a very slippery slope because you can get to a point where it might be too late. Point of no return, so to speak. The point of no return, that's right. Yep. You know, because as you get more and more obese, all the other health issues come with that. Heart issues, brain issues, muscle issues, just functionality issues. And some of those are irreversible, you know? And you don't want to get to that point. You do not want to get to that point because the one thing that you can have forever is your health. And obviously forever, not literally, but that is the one thing that you can control forever. Yep. As long as you're alive, you can control that. And if you let it get too far out of control, bad things are going to happen, you know? Absolutely. Or the solution's just going to be that much harder. Yeah, You're going to build yourself such a mountain that, you know, next thing you know, you're huge, and it takes a long time to take that fat off, and a long time to put that muscle on, etc. And or to just change those habits in general. Exactly, because that's the biggest thing. When you have someone that, you know, and just caveat, I've not worked with anyone that is 400 or 500 or 600 pounds or anything like that, but as you get to those points, it's not impossible to make the changes by any means. To lose that weight, to put on muscle and start to feel better and live better. But as you get to those points, it is just such, I think mountain is the right word. It's such a huge mountain to climb, and other issues can come along with that, like what I was just mentioning. And you also might get discouraged a lot easier as well. But at the end of the day, it's the habits that are the hardest to change when someone gets to that point, because their habits that's what's caused them to get to that point. You know, you don't just wake up one day and you're 400 pounds or you're 500 pounds or, you know, you're 100 pounds overweight or something like that. You don't just wake up like that. There are habits that have continually led to you getting to that point and stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. Now all of a sudden you're 450 pounds, you know, and you can't get out of bed or whatever. You know, they've even made TV shows like, in a way, like glorifying people that are 500 plus pounds, which that's a whole... My 500 pound life. Exactly. That's honestly, that's a whole other topic that we could do and probably should do, quite honestly. because that's not something that should be glorified by any means. And as a matter of fact, it should be condemned in a way.
Yeah. Okay.
But overall point here is you don't want to get to the point of no return, like you just mentioned. You get to that point, you might die. You might have severe health issues or heart issues is what I meant to say. That, again, you could die earlier than what you should. You may not be able to either have a family or participate in things with your family because if you're stuck in bed all day, like what kind of life is that? What kind of life is that? You know, you can't even go to the bathroom. You can't even put on clothes. You can't shower. You can't bathe.
None of it.
You can't walk. Like, you can't do any of the basic human things. So, do not get to that point.
No. And, you know, I can speak to it on the training end of things where, you know, for example, I have an in-person client right now, guys, who his body fat percentage is high. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, I'm not going to just out him and say it's what the number is, but it's like, it's high. And he's even said it himself. He's let it slip for, 5-10 years now, or whatever it is. But guess what? He's 26. So he's catching it now. That's what we're talking about right now. He's catching it now. And we're not even only talking about morbidly obese or obese people either.
Sure.
This could go for the skinny fats or the people that just, you could tell your functionality starting to go out the window just bit by bit by bit. You're not disciplined daily. You go to work and then maybe you're somewhat of an effective husband or a wife or whatever it is. But you're not actually at your full potential.
Right.
And that's our full potential, something you and I are striving for daily, for that matter. And
100%.
We're never going to achieve that full potential either. That's not like a realistic end goal because you're never going to be that perfect human, as we talk about many times in the start of our episodes. But you should absolutely be striving for the best possible version of yourself, no matter what, whatever that looks like for you. And the thing is like, again, this is why I'm talking about my client who is 26. I had another guy, he was 31. I trained years ago who he's went from, I think he was 350 at his starting point, I believe, and he's gone all the way down to something around, I believe he's told me he's at, because he messaged me, cool enough, at 230 or something like that. So
that's awesome.
He's made a huge change.
Awesome.
And again, he was 31, so he's young still,
Right.
So we're talking about these guys that catch it. But the thing is, if you're talking about people who are 350, 400 plus, life doesn't look good for you after 50. I mean, even before 50, obviously not. But if you're after 50, who knows? I mean, you could be counting your years at that point in time is the point of the matter. And again, for those of you that, you might get to 80 something by not really taking care of your health at all or something like that, but you're just like kind of skinny fat. That's not a good life either, because then you're just living 40 miserable years or however many years or whatnot it is. And again, even then, it is hard to turn around even 20 pounds at 60 something years old at that point in time. And again, there's compounds like testosterone, like we've talked about, that can assist with that now. Right. Of course, you should be getting your blood work done if you're of age for that, and looking into that, of course. But it's not going to end up good if you're just putting it off, because there's never going to be a good time. There never is a good time to just jump in head first. There's always going to be something else stacking on the plate. There's always someone else stacking on our plate. There might be a huge thing stacking on our plate here coming up, for that matter.
Yeah, right.
And, so like our schedule is going to just keep getting busier and busier. Wirtz and I are very aware of that as well, but that priority, your health, is 100% number one, because great, money's cool and all that stuff, but Michael Smoke, Higher Up Wellness, says is perfect. He's like, you care about everything else until your health fails. Yeah. And then all of a sudden your health fails and you're like, oh shit, what just happened?
Right.
Where am I now?
Right. Well, and I think just to end this off here, guys, the overall thing is to catch this early. Now, how do you do that? Okay. I'm coming from the side of the spectrum where I was heavy and then now I'm not. You're coming from the spectrum, you were underweight, now you're not. And the ways to catch it early, I think, number one, your mental thoughts, your inner talk. Is it always negative about how you look, how you feel, things like that? Okay, well, that's a tell. That's a tell that you're not looking and feeling how you want to. Not how the world tells you should look or anything like that, but you're not looking and feeling how you want to. And if you're not looking and feeling how you want to, that's a good indicator it's time to make a change. Okay? Another one, clothes aren't fitting how they used to or how they should. When you put something on that you used to feel really good in, but now you're sticking out of it or something like that. Like, or it looks really loose on you or something, that's another indicator. Physical things, heartburn. If you're overweight, heartburn is a good indicator. I dealt with a ton of that. As a matter of fact, I used to be on a prescription medication for it because my heartburn was so bad. Like, that's such a silly thing. In my mind, it's such a silly thing to have to go on a prescription medication for. Yeah, everyone gets the occasional heartburn. You throw a couple Tums in, or you drink some milk, and it goes away. Because you ate some spicy wings or whatever. Like, I get it. Everyone deals with some heartburn from time to time. But when you get so big that the amount of fat and stuff in your stomach is putting pressure on your esophagus and your throat and things like that, so stuff is coming back up, like, that's a pretty good indicator. Hey, I got too much going on down here because it's forcing stuff back up. This is really uncomfortable. So that's another indicator. So that's just a few that come to the top of the mind here. But the overall point between what both of us have said here is catch it early. Be aware of how you talk to yourself, especially when it comes to your body, your energy levels, and things like that. Be aware of that, okay? Because that can be a very good indicator that it's time to make a change. Clothes, good indicator. Physical things, again, like the heartburn, there's plenty of other ones. It's just what comes to mind for me because that's a personal experience. Catch it early so that it does not become too late. It's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and shout out Judd. His name's Judd Leanhart, I believe. Or Leanhart, one of the two. First Form athlete, I believe, or at least First Form affiliated, who inspired this idea, just to give him credit for that as well, because he put out a great video on it as well. But that's all I got on my end too, for sure.
Yeah.
Again, guys, just catch it. And again, if you're listening to this video, Untapped and my own account has free fitness content on my end daily, and then at least 3 to 4 times a week on Untapped to some degree. We have usually some kind of health or fitness content on there. So if you're on this video, go check out Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, X, all that stuff, because we're going to be tweeting all that stuff too on there. Free stuff is a big thing for us because we want to give you guys the opportunity. And then if you're looking for real help, that's when you talk to us about online training. Or if you're in St. Louis, you look for us for in-person training.
Yeah.
So.
And a surefire way to immediately, I mean, we're talking immediate, like as soon as you do this, to get results is to go to your nearest supplement superstore's location with a smoothie bar and get yourself an Untapped smoothie.
Those of you that follow my stories, I've been crushing these. I've had them like two a week right now.
Yeah,
They're just gas.
Dude, they're literally so good. Yeah. Like, especially as we're heading into spring and summer right now. Like, it's so good.
And by the way, there's 5 grams of creatine in there because, it's the best supplement on planet Earth.
Exactly. So, Exactly. Protein, creatine, all of it. There's fruits in there. It's literally it's the best possible thing you could ever drink in your life. It's even better than water.
Money Mitch approved too, producer of the podcast. So
we just gonna breeze by that. Better than water.
That's crazy. I totally did breeze by that. That's insane.
Guys, if you have any questions about what we offer with Untapped Training, please get a hold of us. We have a million different ways. If you don't know how to, go listen to one of our podcast episodes because it's all laid out there at the end of all of our podcast episodes. Again, if you haven't checked out our podcast episodes, they are right here on YouTube, also on all audio platforms. We also post clips like he just mentioned, plenty of clips across all social media platforms, both of us and our Untapped account as well. Guys, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom.